Hello, anyone? Sorry that the video program keeps crashing. I noticed that if your video files are old enough, uh, they will become obsolete, and you have to kind of update them using pain in the ass methods. All right. So I think we're calling this 180-degree breakneck whiplash media spin around on Trump continues. And hello, all five of you, I think. Yeah, five of you. Great. Well, currently watching live, but the idea here is to sort of read the news on certain things and watch them basically, lie to you and react accordingly. Pardon me. It's been really difficult for me to resist the temptation to read the news before going live. Because one, as a I don't know, as a bullshit artist, a propagandist, somebody who speaks to the public about things, you have the temptation of prepping yourself and all that. And I mean, in other cases that's cool, but I want to be as honest and sincere about this as possible and read this live with you for the first time. But anyway, we all know this meme, and this is my version of this meme, pointing to a summary of basically what I'm talking about here, and that is the narrative for the public is being changed by the media from basically panic over Trump virus being pulled out and replaced with Trump's virus panic over. Trump's virus panic over. Grr. That's basically what it's coming down to now. Look at that lizard. Alright. Where am I here? I want to be right. I'm confusing myself because I have too many things open. Let's see, all five of you. Well, anyway, the point here, however, is we're going to read basically what the media narrative on Trump and vaccine is what we're pinpointing the change on. So, if, for example, we go to Google and we type in for now just Trump, Brave, same thing. Brave is a search engine. You folks probably are aware of the fact that supposedly Google skews things along certain cultural and political lines, and one alternative that supposedly does not is Brave. And if that's being the case, we should notice some differences. But if we just put in Trump, there's a lot of different reporting on Trump, so to pinpoint that which has to do with Trump and vaccines might be a little bit like looking for needles in haystacks, but we'll see here. How about we do this? Why don't we try doing a Control F so that we can put in Trump vaccine. Okay, so on the first page of results for Google, if you Google Trump, there's nothing about vaccines even in the first page of Google results. But let's see, second page. Well, how about maybe I should do it like this. All right, so my point being that there's too much. So let's put in Trump and vaccine as a Google search on both Google and a Google search on Google and a Brave search. Let's compare. Top stories. You get the political one that I covered yesterday. That's they may have change that, or I'm not sure, but then there's the Hill. We didn't look at that, nor the Post. The Guardian we started, but then we just didn't get to it. Yeah, see, it's kind of funny, like if you go to Brave, they just give you search results. If you go to Google, right at the top, they're trying to sell you some news, But there you go. I mean, that's what you get if you're using Google. Was listening and not looking at the moment. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm just asking out of curiosity. I'm the kind of person where I like to learn about different religions, and so the Hindu religion is so complex and rich and just multi-layered. Wow, it's just fascinating stuff. But anyway, getting back to this story though, or just the whole point here. So skipping these things that they're trying to sell us, and by the way, with Google, you have the option of clicking on news, videos, images, blah, blah, blah. And with Brave, same thing. So let's just set them both to news and see what happens. All right. Trump vaccine as a Google search. Clicking on news gets you at the top, the thing that we looked at yesterday. Trump White House exerted pressure on FDA for COVID-19 emergency use authorization. House report finds from Politico from 2 days ago. We went into that. We read the whole thing. And then you have the Hill and so on. Let's see. With Brave. Sorry about that. Real Clear Politics is at the top. Now, supposedly this is just organic, these results. I don't know. I mean, I'm just taking somebody's word for it. Ultimately, I'm just trusting that Styx Hexenhammer knows what he's talking about when he says that is the case. It's just a matter of repeatability. It's kind of a scientific method kind of thing. If something is repeatably reliable in various areas, then, tentatively go along with that. If that's your only choice. But anyway, I suppose what we'll do then, the whole point, though, is, one of the points here is to sort of observe the propaganda machine in action, right? And so by going with Google's supposedly skewed results, we're doing so. We're watching it happen. We're not taking this as truth. We want to see what is the propaganda machine putting out right now compared to what it used to on a given issue or a cluster of issues, and watch it change in real time, because they're attempting a very big sort of about face on their whole attitude with the vaccine, and therefore its relation to Trump has to change, because Trump has to be the perennial bad guy for a lot of different sources. Not all, but for a lot of different sources, he has to be the perennial devil card. And so, therefore, if something else is demonized, be it a vaccine, Fauci, hydroxychloroquine, or what have you, evil has to be sort of thrown into this same barrel as other evil, I guess. I don't know. I'm not saying it the most eloquent way I could, but I think you get the idea, folks. Pardon me a second here. So far I have resisted the temptation to prepare, although we did read this, so we already know about that. But let's see, that the Hill, I suppose, is next up. Just so you know, though, I don't really want to deal with their pop-ups, nor do I think their advertisers deserve any clicks. So we're going to run that through an archive first to bypass that. And do I want to save again? No, because if it's been updated since then, I want to see what they at least put out before that. So this is The Hill. Their headline is House Panel Details Trump Pressure on FDA for Discredited COVID Treatment and Vaccines, and vaccines. by Nathaniel Weichsel, I guess, from August 24th, so 2 days ago. And top Trump administration officials pressured the FDA to reauthorize the discredited COVID-19 treatment hydroxychloroquine. Okay? Now, remember, hydroxychloroquine was a bad thing. It was a no-no, and it still is. So they're using that to their advantage here. And to speed up the release of the first COVID-19 vaccines. All right? So it seems like what they're trying to do is to pair these two in everybody's mind now. It used to be vaccines good, and it still is for the most part. I'm just pinpointing the beginnings of the changing of the narrative. I'm not saying this is consistent through the media yet, but as you know, it's kind of a Darwinist situation. If the story sells them enough clicks, then this is the narrative they're going to go with. It's what it's all about. I mean, you know. So yeah, it does seem like they're trying to pair in everybody's mind now, at least with these particular in this narrative. The idea is to pair hydroxychloroquine, which is a no-no, with vaccines, which are now a no-no, because now more and more reporting is being allowed that is critical of some of these things. And as we saw in yesterday's live stream and the day before, you're seeing the beginnings of media trying to basically pin it all on Trump. And I'm not saying he's blameless for anything, but you know, bullshit is bullshit. I don't care like what side it serves and all that. It's wrong in its own right. Lying is not okay. And when I see bullshit, I want to call it out. When I see hypocrisy, I want to call it out. When I see people being hypocrites, I can't help but call it out. When I see people bullshitting with themselves and with each other about the clothing that the emperor does or does not wear, or that he doesn't wear. You know, when the emperor wears no clothes and everybody's arguing over the details of the fabric that isn't there, you know, it's a little frustrating. Because I know a lot of it is, you know, it's a smoke screen to cover, you know, other kinds of corruption out there. You know, it's not just harmless. It's not just funny, although it is funny. It's not harmless, though, because it serves as a smoke screen. I mean, you know, this whole thing of like, Trump's the bad guy, everybody. Trump's the bad guy. Oh, I hate Trump so much. Oh, I hate him even more than you do. Oh, let me hold up a bloody head of Trump. Oh, my God, I'm the victim because, you know, the whole thing, you know, and it's a song and dance so that people don't pay attention to things that actually do matter. Bison American Club. Poop. I love the comment. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So, all right, let's read this. Where was I? Yikes. Okay, again, pairing hydroxychloroquine with vaccines. According to a new report, Democrats on the House Select Coronavirus Subcommittee released Wednesday. It's the whole, like, no, we have new information now, so now the whole narrative can change. Of course, they always have, you know, they have they always have to have some sort of excuse that everybody's supposed to go, oh, yeah, that, what he said. So emails and text messages and testimony obtained by the committee show the Trump White House, quote, exerted extreme and inappropriate pressure, unquote, on the FDA to reauthorize hydroxychloroquine, even after it was shown to be ineffective and potentially dangerous. The report found administration officials like trade advisor Peter Navarro, enlisted outside allies like Fox News host Laura Ingraham and daytime TV talk show host Mehmet Oz. You gotta love how he's not Dr. Oz all of a sudden, you know? It's just, it's... I'm starting to see it to be too consistent. Like, for example, last month, all of a sudden, Dr. Birx is not Dr. Birx because they want to criticize her. In this report, COVID expert Deborah Birx says she knew vaccines were not going to protect against infection. Former Trump advisor says U.S., quote, overplayed the vaccines, unquote. And, maybe we'll get back to that. But, yeah, you notice how all of a sudden Dr. Birx is not Dr. Birx. I mean, in the body, of course, they have to at some point admit that she is. Otherwise, that's just going too far. But, all of a sudden he's not Dr. Oz. He's Mehmet Oz? Is that how you say his name? But anyway, all right. Peter Navarro enlisted, TV trial. Mehmet Oz, now the GOP nominee for senator in Pennsylvania, to amplify pressure on the FDA to authorize hydroxychloroquine, a drug normally used to treat malaria and lupus, as a COVID-19 treatment. Now, I remember not long ago where they were loath to let anyone even begin to say that, well, hydroxychloroquine has been used in humans for some serious stuff. Now, all of a sudden, they're allowing that. All right. So, hydroxychloroquine has been heavily promoted as a treatment for the virus by Trump allies, despite almost no evidence. Navarro and Stephen Hatfill, an adjunct assistant professor at George Washington University, brought on by Navarro as an advisor to the coronavirus response, led coordinated attacks on the FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn, infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci. Yeah. See, he's not Dr. Fauci. Okay. If you're going to mention somebody over and over again in an article, eventually might drop the doctor here and there, but when you're introducing the figure into your article and you're already dropping the doctor, then, that seems like an intentional disrespect, but with plausible deniability, of course, which is kind of cowardly. So, infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci and other health officials who refused to support hydroxychloroquine. Quote, newly released evidence shows that Dr. Hatfill and Mr. Navarro used their direct access to top public health officials in attempt to strong-arm them into supporting hydroxychloroquine, unquote, the report stated. The FDA issued an emergency authorization for hydroxychloroquine in late March 2020, but then revoked it less than 3 months later. The report also details how the Trump administration influenced the FDA to deliver misleadingly positive news about convalescent plasma and coronavirus treatment on the eve of the 2020 Republican National Convention, and White House attempts to block the FDA from collecting additional safety data on the first coronavirus vaccine in an attempt to ensure that it could be authorized before the 2020 presidential election. Trump later attacked Hahn without evidence for deliberately slowing down the authorizations of the vaccine and convalescent plasma because of politics. Quote, the select subcommittee's findings that Trump White House officials deliberately and repeatedly sought to bend FDA's scientific work on coronavirus treatments and vaccines to the White House's political will are yet another example of how the prior administration prioritized politics over public health, unquote. Representative James Clyburn, Democrat, South Carolina, the panel's chair, said in a statement. Pardon me, let me sip my coffee here. The efforts by members of the Trump administration, including the former president, to meddle with public health agencies has been well documented. However, the report offers new levels of details on the pressures put on the FDA in 2020. Clyburn noted the Trump administration's attack on public health officials helped to contribute to a politicization of science and reduced the public's trust in the government. Oh, that's what it was? All right. Well, quote, these assaults on our nation's public health institutions undermine the nation's coronavirus response and are precisely why we must never again settle for leaders who prioritize politics over keeping Americans safe, unquote, Clyburn said. In testimony before committee staff, Hahn said he felt pressure because of Navarro's quote-unquote persistence in insisting that hydroxychloroquine worked and should be reauthorized despite strong evidence to the contrary. Quote, we took a different stance at the FDA, unquote, Hahn said. Quote, so that disagreement, which of course ultimately became somewhat public, was a source of pressure, unquote. In an emailed statement, Navarro said the select subcommittee was, quote, wrongly, unquote, perpetuating that hydroxychloroquine, quote, was somehow dangerous, unquote. Navarro also cited excerpts from his memoir that chronicled his clashes with what he described as the, quote, never Trump FDA, unquote. The subcommittee report also details how the FDA wanted to advise vaccine manufacturers that the FDA wanted 60 days worth of follow-up patient safety data before applications for emergency use before applications for emergency use authorizations were filed. That request would mean authorization wouldn't occur until after the November 2020 election. Trump had repeatedly said the shots would be authorized before election days, despite experts and agency scientists signaling that it was unlikely. Hahn told the committee that the agency faced, quote, pushback about the issue, unquote, from multiple officials, including Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows. Meadows said the White House wouldn't sign off the guidance because of the 60-day requirement. The agency eventually circumvented the White House by quietly publishing the 60-day data request as part of a larger set of background documents for industry. Meadows later that day told Hahn the White House had cleared the release of the guidance. Trump later attacked the FDA on Twitter, quote, new FDA rules make it more difficult for them to speed up vaccines for approval before Election Day, just another political hit job, unquote, Trump wrote, tagging Hahn, presumably on Twitter. So there you go. Now, this one, not as much. Okay, the political article that we read yesterday, which is the first that comes up, I believe, here, right? This one, they go a little bit further in the sort of criticism of the vaccines. And a little bit more suggestion that they are bad, but I don't want to be repetitive and just read this one again. But notice the Hill was a little bit less of that, but they were right from the beginning, dropping the doctor from certain people's names, which is kind of funny. It's a little childish, but they seem to be trying to pair hydroxychloroquine and vaccines as both being something that was, at least the suggestion there is that perhaps they were both rushed to market for political points for the Trump side. The names Navarro comes up a lot, of course, Hahn and others, but there you go. I think we're going to see more of it. It depends, because there was a lot of people out there pretty angry about, things. So, there's steam out there to catch on this whole thing. So I think because of Darwinianism, this narrative is probably going to go pretty far. It's going to be confusing, and people are going to point out the hypocrisy and, basically what I'm trying to get across with, not the most original meme, but then again, it's like, it's not the most original mechanism that we're critiquing here. All right. Ba-doink. All right. Now, I think we finished that one. And again, we don't really have to concern ourselves with what Brave, because that is for people who actually go out and try to find information rather than allowing it to be spoon-fed to them. Speak Life, Home Garden, and Permaculture. Most everything they imposed violated HIPAA and the Hippocratic Oath. Yeah, there's a lot of people violating I mean, even if it's not legally binding, what happened to honor? God damn it. When you put your hand on your heart and another hand up in the air and stuff, even if you don't believe in, I don't know, the afterlife or whatever, have some dignity, man. If you're swearing an oath, I mean, you better goddamn mean it. There should be at least some social, if not other repercussions for people who just swear oaths and then violate it, you know, like it doesn't mean anything in the first place. Don't do that. That is lying to the public, okay? That's lying to society. Whether we're talking about somebody swearing the Hippocratic Oath or the oath that you swear when you become a law officer, when you get voted into office, when you get sworn into office, whatever the case may be, secret societies, Freemasonry, I don't give a shit. You know, or the, you know, when you swear to your spouse, when you get married, you know, you're swearing to your spouse.
Oaths used to come with death sentences in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
If you broke an oath, then it was reciprocated with a duel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pistols at dawn. Somebody just murdering you. Somebody paying somebody to murder you. Etc.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody taking things from you.
Yeah.
Usually the breaking of an oath came with, like, consequences at one point in history. Now it's just if the person is, you know, ballsy enough to knock you the fuck out after you break your oath. That rarely happens.
Yeah. I don't know if you folks have seen films like, and I'm not saying they're historically accurate, but Dangerous Liaisons, and what's the other one that's another version of that? Valmont.
Valmont, Dangerous Liaisons, Cruel Intentions.
Yeah.
There might be another one.
Well, there are others out there. But I don't know if all of those. I know Valmont has, has a duel scene, and as does Cruel Intentions, I believe, right?
Yeah, they all do, because it's the same story, just told with different actors in slightly different settings.
Yeah.
But it is the same story over and over again.
Yeah. And
Cruel
so it
Intentions
involves
is the modern version.
Right, and that was, I think, you know...
Reese Witherspoon played the cruel girl. She played Glenn Close's character, or that one other chick, what was her name?
Oh, okay, well, that's like a modern-day version of it?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know that film, so
Not
there's a
many
duel on
people
that.
realize that it is a modern-day version of the older stories.
Right.
But that's because they never watched them, or they didn't care to...
Gotcha.
Read it, or anything.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that film. I'd like to see it now that I know that, but there is a duel scene in that movie?
Well, there's like a
fight?
A fight.
Yeah, well, that's the equivalent.
You know?
Right.
Like I said, it's modern setting, so instead of getting like pistols at dawn, you just like drag race or you punch each other, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, to some degree, children know that's organically right to some degree. So, like, for example, when we were in, I think, 7th grade, for some reason, I don't even remember what, and I think it was just purely some idiot, this kid was gaining social esteem somehow by having something bad to say about my best friend. And it was, I forget what it was, but it was bullshit, so I don't remember. But he basically was lying about him, and he was saying some bad stuff about him that just was not true. And I mean, I knew from personal experience it was not true. And it got to the point where my friend was like, listen, buddy, you better shut the hell up, or I'm going to knock you out. Because you're being, you know, what you're saying is wrong, and I don't understand why you're doing it. I didn't do anything wrong. And the kid kept it up. So basically, our version of, you know, meet me pistols at dawn, I forget what it was. I was like after the last bell, meet me on the front lawn, whatever it was.
Same equivalent.
Right. And because he was my best friend, you know, it was my job to make sure that the fight was at least fair. And I was not going to let my friend get kicked in the head if he was going to get, you know, if your buddy's going to get, you know, lose a fight, you want to make sure that the other guy doesn't, like, kick him while he's down. But anyway, I'm dwelling on this too much, but basically, this guy had it coming, and he got what's coming to him. And my friend kicked his butt. Like, I mean, he was dealing with a weak person. And, I know from personal experience that my buddy did know how to fight. He at least knew how to spar. And so he was pretty good. My job was like, hey, remember your training, buddy. Like, I know what you could do with a body bag. I've seen you do it. You have one in your basement. He was good. And he didn't go around bothering people. He didn't go around like a tough guy. Even though he could kick ass, nobody knew it. Because he was a good guy. And the other guy was quite the opposite. And he proved that. And so there you go. Yeah. He had him down within like a minute or two. He kicked the guy's ass. And he didn't hurt him seriously. He did enough for the other guy to cower and be like, okay, I'm sorry. And that's all it took. And my whole point is that there's this concept that our society, meaning Western modern society or secular society, blah, 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 used to be more of an honor society than it is. And I don't know what kind of term you would use as the alternative of, well, it's not so much an honor society as, I don't know, legalistic, I guess. But I'm not quite really... I don't think that's quite the right term, but I think you people understand what I'm saying. And in some cultures, honor has a much is more important or more binding than it is in other cultures right now. And well, anyway, that's not the point of this, so I don't want to dwell on that too much. But all right, so now Washington Post. Boop. Let me copy that. I'll read the comments for the meantime. Sorry, I need to get glasses, folks. So it's hard for me. Paracosmonaut, good to see you. Speak like sweep like. Yeah. All right. Washington Post. Yeah, to some degree, my friend and I, we sparred just out of fun because we were into kung fu and karate and all that kind of stuff. And his mom was like, well, if you clean the basement, you could set some stuff up. So we did. So we had some body bags down there and punching bags down there and various stuff like that. Also, as a kid, I did take jiu-jitsu lessons, but informal, not very many. It was just a matter of like really being into it. And then it was all good. But anyway, Washington Post. House, and this is from August 24th, okay? House panel, Trump sought to pressure FDA on COVID vaccines and treatment. The report offers fresh details about that campaign and how it rattled agency officials by Dan Diamond. And that's from August 24th, and it was... that was the update. Originally published August 24th, 11 a.m., and then updated that afternoon, all right? So let's have a look here. It's probably going to be basically the same narrative as the other one from The Hill, I would imagine. Washington Post. Also, the New York Times expect pretty much the same thing. Trump officials repeatedly stall the FDA's plan to extend safety studies of coronavirus vaccines in fall 2020 as President Donald Trump pressed the agency for a faster timeline so the vaccines could be authorized before Election Day, according to emails, text messages, and interviews by a congressional panel probing the pandemic response. White House officials such as trade advisor Peter Navarro and outside allies such as TV host and physician Mehmet Oz. Is he not a real doctor? Is that why they're not calling him? Maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know. I could be. I should look into that. I should shut my goddamn mouth because maybe he's not one. I don't know. But they call him Dr. Oz, at least on the TV show title. Do you know, Tabby? Is Dr. Oz a real doctor?
I don't.
Because all of a sudden he's not Dr. Oz. All of a sudden he's Mehmet Oz. or however you say that Arabic name. I don't know. You know. Uh. Anyway, I don't know. I should shut my mouth. So maybe he's not a doctor. I don't know. I don't know. I'll look it up some other time. It's beside my point. Mohammed Oz also pressed federal officials in 2020 to authorize the anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine as a coronavirus treatment, with Navarro and a deputy working behind the scenes to have a hospital craft a request to the FDA for widespread access to the debunked therapy touted by Trump. The House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Crisis concluded in a report released Wednesday. All right. I should read that. Maybe not live on air, but I don't know. Let's see how long it is. This again is the Trump White House's relentless attacks on FDA's coronavirus response. A quote knife fight unquote with the FDA. The Trump White House's relentless attacks on FDA's coronavirus response. Looks like a DVD cover or something. It's pretty short, I think. Oh no, it's not. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, so maybe not live on air, but I should have a look at something. Holy crap. Oh, Jesus. But I try not to get too much into the weeds. I don't really like politics. I find it excruciatingly boring. It's the psychosocial aspect of it that is fascinating. So anyway, getting on with the Washington Post. The report adds new details to the contemporaneous reports about the Trump White House's efforts to sway the FDA in the first year of the pandemic, a pressure campaign that rattled agency officials and threatened to undermine confidence in vaccines and other medical treatments, former Commissioner Stephen Hahn told the panel. Quote, I felt very strongly about the fact that our scientists had created this vaccine guidance. They're interjecting the word vaccine there. So you got to be careful with that when you see brackets like that. I felt very strongly about the fact that our scientists had created this guidance or created this vaccine guidance, whatever he really said there, who knows. I totally supported the science and the clinical data behind it, and I objected to any suggestion that it be changed, unquote, Hahn said in a January 2020 interview that the panel made newly public. Quote, I also felt any changes would be obviously reported and would further reduce vaccine confidence, unquote. Officials Officials and public health experts have also said that Trump's attacks on the FDA left lingering scars on the agency and contributed to fading trust in health officials responding to the pandemic across the government. Quote, these assaults on our nation's public health institutions undermine the nation's coronavirus response and are precisely why we must never again settle for leaders who prioritize politics over keeping Americans safe, unquote. Representative James E. Claiborne, Democrat, South Carolina, the panel's chair, said in a statement. Republicans have decried the Democrat-led panel's work as politically motivated and vowed to launch their own investigations into Anthony S. Fauci. For some reason, he's not Dr. Fauci here. Anthony S. Fauci, the government's top infectious disease expert, and the Biden administration's coronavirus response, should they retake one or both chambers of Congress this fall. Quote, for over 2 years, congressional Democrats have refused to hold a single hearing on the origins of COVID, our government's possible financial involvement in gain-of-function research. That will change when the House Republicans, maybe the live stream is about to end because I said that out loud. But hey, I'm just reading what the Washington Post says, man. You know. And by the way, folks, if you're confused as to why we're still live, the other day YouTube has changed their policies about certain things. So in this about a week following the CDC's guidances have changed on certain things, and et cetera and so on. So expect more of that. And also, it's not coincidental that all of a sudden Dr. Fauci or Anthony Fauci, not a Dr. Fauci, is going to resign in 6 months. So at least that's the current narrative, or what he said recently. Anyway. Quote, for over 2 years, congressional Democrats have refused to hold a single hearing on the origins of COVID or our government's possible financial involvement in gain-of-function research. That will change when House Republicans take the majority next year, unquote. Representative Steve Scalise, Louisiana, the panel's top Republican, wrote in a statement Monday after Fauci announced he was stepping down in December. Gain-of-function research involves using laboratory techniques to enhance a virus, which some argue without evidence led to the pandemic. The House report issued Wednesday focuses on several FDA decisions in 2020, including officials' debates over how best to expedite vaccines while ensuring they were safe and effective. Trump publicly and privately campaigned for the FDA to move faster, accusing it of deliberately postponing decisions until after the November 3rd election to undercut his re-election prospects. This is me now, not the article, but I mean, to be fair, from the very beginning, we have pointed out that vaccines are supposed to have a certain amount of real-time testing, 10 to 15 years. And we're talking real-time testing. Now, that used to be something that people understood. Wasn't all that complicated of an idea, but then, this is exactly what Orwell was talking about when he's saying that you can get people to literally believe that 2 + 2 = 5 with enough conditioning, because people were then conditioned to repeat the narrative. What exactly was it? Something to the effect of, oh no, that does not count when it comes to, fill in the blank. They had some excuse as to why all of a sudden the vaccines had to be rushed to market without the required 10 to 15 years of real-time testing. So, it doesn't take too much. I mean, if people had more self-respect, they wouldn't be so susceptible to this. But there you go. That, by the way, I think is the lesson of the Emperor Wears No Clothes. I mean, integrity and honesty, it's been a long time since I read that book, but at least the way I imagine it is that ultimately the naked emperor does appreciate the person who told him the truth, because at least he had a chance to stop making an ass out of himself while everybody else is lying to him, but if not, then at least that's how the story should. That should be an aspect of the story, is that the honest voice may not in the short term be advantageous, but ultimately, at least in an ideal situation, in the long run, honesty should be rewarded. Anyway. Getting back to the Washington Post, the House report issued Wednesday focuses on several FDA decisions in 2020, including officials' debates over how best to expedite vaccines while ensuring they were safe and effective. Trump publicly and privately campaigned for the FDA to move faster, accusing it of deliberately postponing decisions. Okay, I'm sorry, I read that. Quote, the deep state, or whoever over at the FDA, is making it very difficult for drug companies to get people in order to test the vaccines and therapeutics, unquote. Trump wrote in an August 22nd tweet, tagging the then Commissioner Hunt, quote, obviously they are hoping to delay the answer until after November 3rd, must focus on speed and saving lives, unquote. A spokesman for Trump did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Excuse me. Behind the scenes, senior FDA officials concluded by September that they wanted to review 2 months of safety data after participants in clinical trials have received their second shot of the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines, a decision that would delay the agency's vaccine authorization decisions until after the election. Quote, "We were not going to cut corners in our assessment," unquote, Hahn told the panel, adding the agency had already streamlined a vaccine authorization process that typically took far longer, and he feared fallout on vaccine confidence. Quote, "I was concerned about the entire environment, a presidential election, bitter divisions in the country and in Congress, and to me, it was a pretty significant combination of factors that led to a decrease in," for some reason, okay, apparently he said more there, they're leaving it out, "confidence in science and medicine," unquote, Hahn said. But after the FDA submitted its planned timeline for approval in September 2020, Trump officials delayed the agency's request, pressing for its justifications, prompting FDA officials to fret about the impact. Quote, "The ambiguity here is actually creating more problems than a decision one way or the other," unquote, on finalizing the guidance to vaccine makers. Peter Marks, the FDA's top vaccine official, wrote in a September 29th email to Hahn and the agency's then chief of staff, Keegan Lenihan. The FDA ultimately circumvented the White House on October 6th, publishing its vaccine guidance in briefing documents for the agency's outside advisors. The White House later that day formally approved the guidance, but Trump mocked the decision on social media. Quote, "The FDA rules make it more difficult for them to speed up vaccines for approval before Election Day, just another political hit job," unquote, Trump wrote on Twitter, again tagging Hahn in his tweet. Now, here's Dan Diamond on Twitter from August 24th. So, oh yeah, by the way, did I have this? Nope. Let's see. Maybe I should pull up this screenshot that he's sharing. But this is from Dan Diamond from the August 24th. He's tweeting, "Trump officials put out private pressure on FDA in 2020 as detailed in news stories at the time and amplified in today's report." I believe he's referring to that. But much of the pressure was quite public, like Trump's tweets about speeding vaccines before Election Day. And by the way, if you're making something public, that's not a conspiracy. Not that it really matters. Anyway, here's a screenshot. Trump from, when was that? 2020? Yeah, okay, well, we already read that. I think we did. Well, okay. Donald J. Trump tweeting, "New FDA rules make it more difficult for them to speed up vaccines for approval before Election Day. Just another political hit job." And there he is tagging Steve. All right. Steve Hahn. And then we want to read this, I believe, is what they're also including. Well, they're really just wanting us to read that, but whatever. Dan Diamond's also tweeting, in emails obtained by the House panel, Oz urged Jared Kushner to help rush hydroxychloroquine so patients could immediately receive the drug. Quote, "We have a potential pandemic solution at our fingertips," unquote, Oz wrote in March 2020. The drug was later discredited as a COVID treatment. So, Trump bad, Oz bad, hydroxychloroquine bad, and we're going to try maybe vaccines bad. We're not quite sure yet. But that's the thing, there's some powerful interest behind these vaccines, so, hydroxychloroquine, apparently you can't patent that, so it doesn't have, like, say, somebody, what do they call that, a profit taking or whatever, somebody's bottom line isn't crashing, and there's not a person apparently who has a patent for hydroxychloroquine for them to be like, oh my god, this is hurting my bottom line, this has got to stop, get me on the phone with this person, that person, the other person. That just doesn't happen if it's just available for anybody who wants to manufacture it, right? So anyway, here we go. From Kushner to Dr. Mohammed Oz, at least in this, he's doctor, according to Kushner or whatever. All right, so should we read this? This is going to be boring. I know because I'm funding our study at Columbia, but no, this is a plotting process which will take a month before we have results. We must make the completion of the study a national priority and insist on immediate enrollment. It has been almost a week since we learned of the French data and over a month since the Chinese data, and we still have no patients in trials. We still have no patients in trials. Doctors and nurses are already struggling to find pills for off-label use, but at least we have a potential pandemic solution at our fingertips. So that's what they're quoting. All right. Boink. Where were we here? All right. In this panel interview, Han acknowledged the FDA faced pushbacks over its timeline from the White House and senior health officials, such as former Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. But Han said he was confident the agency had prioritized safety. Quote, "It came down to this as the most appropriate and pragmatic way to assess the vaccines," unquote, Han said. Quote, "balancing speed with making sure we got the decision right," unquote. Through a spokesman Wednesday, Han declined to comment on the report. Azar did not respond to a request for comment. The panel's report also details the months-long battles over hydroxychloroquine, the malaria drug also used to treat some autoimmune conditions that Trump and some others seized on as a coronavirus cure despite scant evidence. Beginning in March 2020, Han and other health officials were inundated with messages from pro-hydroxychloroquine commentators, including emails from Fox News host Laura Ingraham and Oz, who called for patients to immediately begin receiving the treatment. Randomized studies later showed that patients given the drug did no better than those receiving a placebo. Quote, "We have a potential pandemic solution at our fingertips," unquote, Oz wrote March 23rd to Jared Kushner, when a White House senior advisor and Trump's son-in-law, then a White House senior advisor and Trump's son-in-law. The TV host cited data provided by a French scientist that, quote, after 6 days of treatment, 100% of trial patients were free of virus, unquote, and said that a U.S. study on the drug should be a, quote, national priority, unquote. Oz is now running as a Republican candidate for Senate in Pennsylvania. Through a campaign spokeswoman, Oz defended his work on hydroxychloroquine, saying that at the start of the pandemic, he, quote, spoke with health experts worldwide who were seeing hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, I think is how you said it. I don't know. As viable treatment options for desperately ill COVID patients, and Oz offered to fund a clinical trial at Columbia University, unquote. The FDA initially authorized hydroxychloroquine March 29th, despite the skepticism of career scientists worried about the scant data that it was effective. But the agency revoked authorization for the treatment in June amid mounting evidence that it did not work. Quote, "The scientific data is really quite evident now about the lack of efficacy," unquote, Fauci said on CNN May 27th, warning of potential harmful side effects to the heart. Kitty cats. It's kitty cats meowing back there. I don't know if you folks can hear. The reversal frustrated Navarro, a top trade advisor to Trump, and Stephen Hatfield, a deputy and virologist who strategized on how to get the FDA to reverse its decision. Such using allies, I think they mean such as using allies, including Senator Ron Johnson of Republican Wisconsin, according to emails obtained by the panel. How much more is this? Let's see here. Ooh, it's almost done. Okay. In one instance, Navarro and Hatfield worked with a Michigan-based hospital system, Henry Ford Health, to bring pressure. For instance, Hatfield crafted a request letter that the health system could submit to the FDA, although he instructed the organization, quote, never mention the White House together with my name, unquote. In a May 2020 email to a physician leading the system's work on hydroxychloroquine. Regardless, the FDA in August denied the hospital system's request, having repeatedly warned about safety concerns related to the drug. Quote, FDA decided it will not renew the emergency authorization for hydroxy, unquote, Hatfield wrote in an August 2020 email to himself that was obtained by the panel. Quote, that's okay because it was already arranged for Hahn to be pulled into Senator Johnson's committee to answer some questions. The senator is pissed off, and I wrote the questions, so it should be a good shit show, unquote. Yeah, I mean, Gunner, you get it. Yeah. It's kind of what it's really, what it comes down to is just the braying of. Okay. Through a spokesman, Hatfield acknowledged his work with Henry Ford Health and said his actions to encourage hydroxychloroquine were appropriate. Quote, we never wrongly pressured anyone. We simply followed the science and the overwhelming evidence as detailed in several studies available at the time, unquote, Hatfield wrote in a statement. In a statement, Navarro also defended his advocacy for hydroxychloroquine, citing experts from his memoir, quote, In Trump Time, unquote, which details his clashes with Fauci, Hahn, and other officials over the drug. Quote, the partisan House Select Subcommittee report, quote-unquote, wrongly perpetuates one of the most deadly lies of the pandemic, namely that the safe and powerful therapeutic to treat COVID, hydroxychloroquine, is somehow dangerous, unquote, he wrote. The FDA did not respond to specific questions about the report, but said in a statement that career staff had worked round the clock throughout the pandemic, quote, to make the best science-based decisions on behalf of the American people in a rapidly evolving and unprecedented public health emergency, unquote. Yeah, you know, from the beginning, we were kind of paying attention to the numbers, the figures, even their figures, which were greatly inflated as they admitted from the very beginning, and it was the flu. Not saying it wasn't designed, you know, I'm not saying it was natural, but I'm saying it was about as much to worry about as the flu, roughly speaking. Okay? It wasn't that goddamn, it was certainly not something that was serious enough for everybody to just enthusiastically throw away their constitutional rights and then get mad at other people for not going along with it. That absolutely goddamn disgusts me and any decent human beings out there. Absolutely disgusting how some people, enough people, went along with that. God damn it, it's disgusting. All right, I don't want to be, get off my lawn, you stupid kids, but there you go. All right, let's finish this up. Henry Ford Health said it would launch an investigation into the report's allegations, quote, like other health systems, we participated in a number of studies and clinical trials, including for hydroxychloroquine, during a time when there was no known treatments for COVID-19, when our own studies determined that hydroxychloroquine was not an effective treatment, we suspended the study and any use of the drug. As always, the safety of our patients is our top priority, unquote. Alexa Henning, a spokeswoman for Johnson, wrote in a statement that the senator from Wisconsin was being wrongly attacked by the, quote, COVID cartel, unquote. I believe that's the end of the article. Yeah. So there you go. I think that's enough articles, but we get the idea. Expect more of this turnaround on vaccines, as it's becoming more and more okay to speak negatively on Fauci. It becomes more and more okay to speak critically about things like masks and vaccines. The only thing is these vaccine manufacturers do have a lot of profit motive to, you know, change the narrative in their favor, and a lot of money, enough money into a campaign can change people's minds because people are sheep. So, but thank you very much for being with me. I think I'm going to be going. Tabby has been more than patient with me. And, all right, folks. I thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it very much. Leave us a comment below. Please subscribe to us on other platforms besides YouTube, because we have no future on YouTube. All right, thanks.